Welcome to the new 2020 BMW X5. So after 2019, BMW redesigned the X5, and this is what you see here at a 2020 version. It's a little bit nicer, a little bit cooler, a lot more features, and I believe it's probably overall a little bit bigger. But you know, it's actually not that bad of a car. There's a lot of things to like about it. There's a few quirky things to not like about it, but overall, let's check out the 2020 BMW X5. When we think about BMW, we tend to think about luxury and sport, and BMW actually does a really good job of combining both elements. They make a lot of different type of specs of this type of vehicle, you know, but this one right here, we are looking at the S-Drive 40i model, which is the 3.0 liter inline six, makes 339 horsepower. So if you look at the styling, obviously it's pretty basic. The lines look really good, look really clean. The color of this one is a kind of a metallic gray. The 19-inch wheels, very basic. But overall, the styling doesn't look really that bad at all. So Chapman BMW was nice enough to loan me this car while I'm getting a little bit of service done on the i8. So why not? Let's do a quick review of the overall 2020 BMW X5. So when it comes to engine options in the 2020 BMW X5, you have the basic option, which is the twin turbo inline 6-cylinder 3.0 liter. This is pretty much standard engine ever since my 1995 BMW M3 with a 3.0 liter 6-cylinder engine. This one just has the twin turbo. They make about a host of other different options for motors, all the way up to the M version. This one right here, outfitted the way it is, this car costs roughly $58,000 to $60,000. So I would assume that the M version probably would range anywhere from $80,000 to $100,000, depending on what model and trim that you get. So, and the power is not that bad. It's okay. I wouldn't say it's perfect. It's fine for a grocery getter. It's nothing that I would really go crazy off-roading with, but you know, to get to a soccer game and everything else, it should work just fine. And the crazy thing about this hood, it's giant and it's huge, is that there's a lever switch that you have to hit twice. So not once, twice. So you pull it one time and it actually actuates the hood. The second time is the latch to release the hood. I don't know why they do that. It doesn't really tell you. It's just another one of those BMW things that we see that there is no rhyme or reason of why they have engineered it that way. It's just over-engineered, and you just get used to it being a BMW driver. Not a big deal. So because if you see, there is no latch. So for our headlights, we have pretty standard BMW headlights. They have the typical like U-shaped kind of halo that they've derived from, and these are also the LED. They are not laser lights, so like some of the options on the i8s, but LEDs are just fine. It's the latest technology, and you can see just fine with it. All right, the wheels are going to be your standard 19-inch wheels, so there's really nothing fantastic. Just aluminum. They look okay, not bad, fitting for this car, but nothing to brag home about. Most people will probably get rid of these and put some aftermarket ones on, but looks great. All right, when it comes to the trunk, just like most key fobs, there's a button on the key fob here, and we can hit it, and it automatically opens. The cool thing about this is it's actually kind of like a trunk of a truck here, a tailgate. And you can see that we can hit this button and a tailgate will come down. This is actually pretty handy. Everything's electronic. We have a couple things here. So with the seats, we'll move them back and forth. You can see we have plenty of room back here. As I said, the seats fold down. We have a cover that goes over. here, and that way you can hide all your stuff if you need to. I wouldn't recommend putting anything on here, as this is very flimsy, but it's there in case you need it. To me, it's just something else that possibly could break later on and possibly cost you a lot of money. But overall, I mean, pretty basic back here. There appears to be which is weird, it looks like where you would put a first aid kit, because it's showing a first aid insignia, but there's no first aid kit back there. So the rest is we have a 12-volt plug-in over here, and then we have something here. I'm not quite sure what these are, but for the most part it's a standard trunk. Works pretty good. What do we have back here? Oh, that's nice. It's actually spring loaded, unlike my M3. Doesn't look to be enough room to install a spare tire, but maybe a few other little things if you needed to hide something back there or something and you didn't want it to get crushed. There's a little bit of space. I'd have to say it's about 8 inches deep, and maybe overall 2 foot by 2 foot square. So let's see, if we were to hit this button, let's see if this goes up by itself, and it does. And then we can actually hit this button here, and the trunk goes down by itself. So I'm curious as if this has anything that I could kick here to lift this up, like some of the newer vehicles, and it does not. So just not a BMW option. All right, so let's talk about the features that you get on the 2020 BMW X5. When you first get into the vehicle, obviously the first thing that you're going to see is probably the instrument cluster, and you're probably going to look for the start stop engine button. Just like all BMWs and all cars, hit the brake, turn on the car, and there you go. Put it in drive and you can be on your way. Now the cool thing about BMWs is that they got so many features, and the 2020 BMW X5 is no exception. This thing is loaded. The infotainment system just has so many features. Another little quirk about the 2020 BMW X5 is that when you hit the start stop engine button, the car turns on. Nowhere do I see anywhere how to just turn on the accessories. So just a little hint for you there that the car is always going to turn on every time that you hit that button, and I don't know how to get it to just use the accessories only. If I stop it, the car stops and essentially everything's shut off, and when I get out of the car is now off. When we first get into the X5 and we start the car, the vibrant LCD screen pops up with our miles per hour gauge and the miles per hour actual on the left, and then our RPM gauge with what driving mode you're on the center left. We have our speed limit sign along with the GPS that tells you where you're currently at, right in the center of the LCD screen. BMW always has the BC button. The BC button is more like to check controls and stuff like that. So if you were to hit the BC button on the side here, you get things like miles per gallon, total distance, your foot-pounds of torque and your horsepower, your lateral G's, what's playing on your media, and then what shift mode that you're in. Right now we're in park. The steering wheel is pretty standard BMW issue steering wheel with your cruise control that's on the left, and all your voice activation, your phone, your volume, menu screens, scrolls are on the right. Behind the steering wheel, just like any other newer type vehicles, you have your paddle controls, left for the negative, right for the positive. We have your standard BMW Stalks with the windshield wipers on the right, and then your high beams and blinkers on the left. Pretty basic stuff there. We do have actually automatic telescopic steering which is really, really nice. And then when you get in, the steering wheel actually tilts up and down, and I'm sure that you can adjust the tilt. Everything was set the way I like it already when I got into the car. If you were to look at the doors, your doors have your basic mirror controls for right and left, and all your window controls, and your lock and unlock functions, and your presets 1 and 2 for your comfort controls when you get into the vehicle, depending on what type of key that you use. So one really, really cool features that I like about this, and a lot of the older BMWs, is the touch capacitance sense buttons. If you were just to rub your finger over the buttons, you can see the menus actually change. And what a lot of people don't know is you can actually assign those not to just radio stations, but you can assign those to things like destinations on your maps, or even say like your phone book, or other things, little quirks that seem to maybe make your life a little easier, but you can program that, and it's actually really, really handy. So on top of that, we have our infotainment system. Now, when you first get in here, you're going to be overwhelmed. The screen is really, really big. It looks about a 11-inch screen in width by about 5 inches tall, and the graphics on these things are getting really, really good. Before they're typically like just basic graphics, but this is showing things like Earth and planets and nature and stuff like that, which is really, really cool. And then you have so many features on Infotainment System that it might take you a few minutes to go through them all. You probably should sit down for about an hour when you buy the car and set everything up to your preference. But on top of that, we have a really, really cool feature I love in my i8 is the Illumination. So just the interior mood illumination just makes everything happier. But in my i8, I only have 3 colors that I can select, which is red, white, and blue, which is great for all American in a German car. But in this one, I noticed that there are multiple different colors added in, such as green and purple or violet. So, and the purple actually looks really, really great. So if you look at it in the car. Interior trim. It's a little left to be desired, I think. I know BMW with the i8, they're going more eco-friendly, and a lot of manufacturers are staying away from things like leather and animal cruelty to get that leather. So the whole unit pretty much looks decked out, and really, really nice vinyl is stitched on the dashboard. It's stitched on door cards, stitched on the steering wheel, stitched on the seats. It just looks really, really nice. The stitching is the same color, essentially in this car, a charcoal type grayish black, which looks absolutely phenomenal. The trim, wood trim, I could clearly see that this looks like wood, but it is most likely faux wood. Why? Because when you tap it, it feels like plastic, which says a lot for this kind of car, because the money that you pay for BMWs, or any luxury car for that matter, you really should be getting premium type materials. But with everything being mass produced these days, and I don't think anybody's really complaining about it, it still looks fantastic. Wood wouldn't be my preference. I actually maybe like the black marble that they have, or maybe the carbon fiber, something a little bit more sportier, that's more up to date with 2020. So let's talk about the center console here. Center console is pretty big. It's surrounded by the purple illumination and then the faux wood accent, but also some aluminum type and gloss black accents that really, really make this thing pop, and it looks expensive, but it is just basic infotainment controls here. It's really old iDrive system. It works exactly the same. You have your media, home, map, comm, nav buttons, your global buttons, and your back and option buttons. And it works if you've ever used a BMW infotainment system. You will be right at home using this one. So when it comes to the gear shifter, we have, a host of controls over here, which is, turn off the cameras, turn on the cameras. You got your sport, comfort, eco, and adaptive modes, which are nice. It depends on, if you're trying to be, eco-friendly to the environment and you want to try to save some gas, you can always put it in Eco Pro. Maybe adaptive if the roads are going from bumpy to smooth, it will adapt, which is kind of cool. You have your sport mode, obviously, if you want to go fast, and you have your comfort mode for just overall everyday driving, which is probably just fine. So all the new cars here and that I've been seeing in 2020 all pretty much typically have the electronic parking brake, which is kind of cool. And one thing that's kind of weird about this stick shift here is that it feels like there's multiple buttons on here. There's actually only one. There's two. There's one inside button, which is like your lock button, but you have to hold that down while you're shifting from, say, reverse to drive, so on and so forth. But there's also a quirky park button, and it's really oddly placed. The park button is actually on the back side, or I should say front side of the shift knob. Well, when you have your hand on it, you will actually be blocking the park button. Super weird. To me, it would seem like it should go on the back side, so when you have your hand and you're gripping it, you could just hit the park button. Is it really a deal breaker? Probably not. It's just an oddly placed button. And of course, you have your start-stop engine button, which I'll be honest, leaves a lot to be desired. It's pretty basic. A lot of the other cars with the nice hole specifically for the start-stop button just looks sportier and cleaner, and like they put a little bit more effort into it than, say, this button here. So at center console, up here we have two cup holders, we have a 12-volt power supply, cigarette lighter, and we have a USB port, and what appears to be a rubber mat. Now, when you put your hand in there, your hand could go pretty far in there. It's enough to easily fit my Note 10 perfectly in there. It's absolutely perfect. But the thing is I was hoping that the charge icon would start popping up on my phone when I put it in there. That wasn't the case, so I do not believe that this is NFC charging on this mat here. But it is handy that the mat is there. It will fit a large phone, no problem, and it looks clean while it's in there, but you just can't see anything that's going on with your phone. That's why you hook it up to the car and you can see everything through the infotainment system. So on our infotainment screen, we have a lot of options here, and it is touchscreen. So if you were to scroll down to the top here, you have your different type menus here that you can kind of scroll through. There's not really much to touch on that notification bar, but you can touch everything else here just fine. And it's very responsive. I don't think you're going to have any problem navigating around. And it actually, with it being so big, the buttons are easy to hit with your fingers, which is great. Another addition in the glove compartment here section of the center console is you can hit the button and you have the split down the middle where it opens up. It's pretty deep inside there. We have a USB-C charging here. It's not the USB micro or 2.0 or anything like that. It's USB-C. If you want another standard USB port, which is right here, but that's typically to upload music button stuff into the infotainment system. Most newer BMWs have a hard drive that is built in where you can upload your music into the infotainment system. A weird quirk on this vehicle here that I don't understand, and maybe I'm not hitting the button correctly, is this massive, looks like appear to be a sunroof. You see that right there? Very much like the Land Rover. But the thing is when you hit the button, okay, it goes up and it does more of the tilt. Okay, that's fine, not a problem. Well, let me close it here, because I know in my other BMWs with sunroofs I have to hold it down. So let me hold it down. Absolutely nothing. Well, let me close it. Maybe I'm hitting the wrong button. Here we go. So let's hit the forward here. Let's hold this down. Same thing. Let me close it. And I'm a little baffled because this is pretty chintzy fabric here, and it feels like to me that it rolls up. And if you were to look up there, you could feel the glass, but it only opens up just a fraction of the way. And I don't know why. That seems a little weird to me, and I cannot figure out for the life of me how to get that open. I can tilt all day long. So that's one little quirk about the sunroof there that I don't understand. But, you know, maybe BMW can address that, or maybe somebody knows something that I don't. The seats look pretty comfortable. They're pretty sturdy here. I don't see those, you know, being destroyed anytime soon. When it comes to the seats, we got full electronic seats. You can see that we have the up, down, the tilt, the forward, the bolster controls, and the lumbar support. And also on the rear seats, they fold down manually. So you just hit this button and the seats fold down for extra cargo space. And behind the driver's seat, each person has their own USB slot, and there's something that fits inside this hole that I have no clue what goes in there, but it looks like something connects in there. Now that we've gone over the exterior and interior of the car, now time to take it for a test drive. So let's go. So overall, you know, first off, one little quirk is that when you start taking off, when you put it in drive, it actually, this thing will pull you back, which is kind of weird, and it's kind of gets me every time. So not quite sure why it does that, but it does that. And it can be quite annoying, and I don't know if you can turn that off or not. But for the most part, the car is actually really, really quiet. And we are in comfort mode. Let me just make sure. Yes, we are in comfort mode. And I'm in my neighborhood right now, so let's go on out to the neighborhood and get on the roads, and let's see how this thing feels. To me, the car feels slightly big. Not big in the front area, but big more towards the back. If you've ever driven a Dodge Durango, it really kind of feels like that. And I think the Dodge Durango is about the same size, or maybe even a little bit bigger. But for the most part, it's not that bad. For me, it's a little harder to park. I'm always looking everywhere. But it does have 360-degree cameras, which is a blessing if you ever had to use one. I absolutely love it in my i8 because it stops me from curb rashing my rims, and you don't want to do that, right? So, but let's get out here on the road here and kind of open her up a little bit and see how it sounds. It feels okay, you know. I mean, BMW, they have these new like active steering, and it feels not mechanical. It feels servo actuated, and that's, I guess that's okay. It's not bad. It's not a sports car. It's an SUV, even though they make an M model. The M model, the steering might be a little bit tighter. Okay, so let's go ahead and skid on this a little bit. Oh, that's actually not that bad for comfort mode. It's actually pretty peppy. It's a little surprise there. And that's not even in sport mode here. So let's throw it in sport mode. And, all right, dynamic setting. And when I hit the gas, this thing pressed up against me, and let's try this again. Okay, so when you put it in sport mode, I can hear the engine sounds more throaty. And typically when you put it in sport mode, it's retuning to ECU and to give you a little bit more power, or maybe the effect of more power, which is great. But it sounds good. I don't feel like anything is plumbed in to the radio system because I don't have the radio on. So I feel like I'm just hearing the exterior noise, and it's not that loud at all. So nothing to worry about there if you're worried about waking up your neighbors. It's not a Mustang. You don't have to worry about that heavy growl, but it does sound good for a European luxury SUV. So let me make a U-turn here, and we'll turn around and we'll try this in Eco mode. So I have switched over to Eco mode. It's Eco Pro, and let's get on this one. Even Eco Pro still kind of gets on it. Now, one thing that I noticed on my i8, it doesn't matter whether I'm in EV mode, EV Eco mode. If I hit the gas, it kicks out of EV mode and it kicks out of Eco mode, and it essentially applies the power that it needs to make it feel like it's not Eco anymore. It's not sport, but it's not Eco. So which is kind of cool. Let's see. And then we have this adaptive. I don't think I'm going to notice anything. Predictive adjustment of vehicle settings for the driving situation. Like I said, I've seen this before. Adaptive driving is nothing new. It's actually a few years old, I probably believe. And basically it adapts to the driving conditions, if you're going off-road, then back onto a normal road. I would have to say maybe a farmer could get some use out of that. But for everyday people, they're not taking these things off-road, so there's nothing to worry about. They probably will never, ever use that adaptive button. So then we have this Auto H. I don't know what Auto H is. Let's hit it. I see an Auto H pop up on my dash. I'm gonna imagine auto headlights. I doubt it, but maybe auto heat. I don't know. It doesn't tell me anything on the infotainment. When I hit the button, it just shows a little green LED that lights up on the dash, and with no noticeable difference in the driving style or anything with the car. So, the infotainment system, obviously it's really easy to maneuver even when you're driving. And like I said, it's really handy that we have the maps right here in front of our face instead of us having to look over and, take our eyes off the road. So, but drivability, it's pretty smooth. You gotta feel bumps in the road like anything else. It's not bad. It does have the same feature, or I don't know how you call it, that I really hate in all SUVs. It's probably anything that's lifted more of a sports car, and that's when you go over a button, it just feels wishy-wobbly. And it's got nothing to do with BMW. It's just the road being up in the air. I'm not 5 inches from the ground like in my BMW i8. So it's really not that bad. It just, when you hit a lot of bumps, it really does quite get annoying, because if you're not holding onto the steering wheel, I feel like you could lose control of the car. And that's not really that good. It's not what you want to do. One little kind of quirky thing that I noticed about this, and it's kind of annoying because it's distracting, is that it does have the speed limit sign on your instrument cluster. If you go 1 mile per hour over, that speed limit sign is flashing at you. And it only does it for a few minutes, but it's annoying. It flashes all the time because everybody drives 6 miles per hour over the speed limit, typically minimum. So I don't know if you could turn that off, maybe, in your instrument cluster display. I believe in my i8 I can turn that off, so possibly in the X5 you could turn that off also. What I noticed about this one is that maybe BMW listened to everybody's cries about the turn signal stalk. The turn signal stalk on my i8, when you push it down, you can't tell whether you've hit the 2-second one or the 2-blinker one, or whether it's going to stay on all the time. And then what you're doing is you're fiddling with it to push it back up, then the other blinker turns on, and it gets really annoying. This one, I can see that they've essentially fixed that, where you could make it go all the way down, or you could just make it go down just a little bit to make it flash a couple times. Another little crazy feature I just saw in this is that when you're in the camera mode, if you were to swap over here, it has a car wash mode. And if you do that, it puts the little car wash tracks in front of you. It's kind of cool, something I've never seen in any vehicle before. So another crazy feature that I've never seen on any other car are the new front humongous grills that BMW has put on their X5 that everybody complains about, but they seem very functional because if you were to look at them when the car is running, they are open. When you turn the car off, they shut, which I've never seen anything like it in any other vehicle. And just in case anybody was wondering, yes, the X5 does fit perfectly in my garage. I have about 4.5 foot of space left and about maybe a foot in the back, so fits in there perfectly. Well guys, that concludes our review of the 2020 BMW X5. So if you have any questions about it, leave the comments below. Let me know what you think. I thought it was a great vehicle to review. You know, not really my cup of tea because I'm more of a sports car or more of an M guy, but I'm BMW, true and true. And this one really fits everything. If I really needed something for, say, you know, the Northeast winter, or I go camping a lot or something like that, this is an extraordinary vehicle. All right, guys, like I said, let me know what you think. Until next time, hit that subscribe button, and I'll talk to you guys later. This is RDUC, and I'm out. Thanks for watching.